You're listening to the 49 Carats Podcast, a 49ers Goldmine production with Stephanie Sanchez.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another edition of the 49 Carats Podcast. I'm your host, Steph. It is Tuesday, April 22nd. We are 2 days away from the NFL draft. So I thought, what better time than now to do one final mock draft? And what better guest to have for this final mock than none other than John Chapman. John, how you doing, man? Excited to have you on today.
There's nowhere else I would rather be. One of my biggest complaints of 2024, if we want to call it that, the season, there was not enough Steph Sanchez in my life. We started it off right. We partied in Nashville together for the preseason game, which was awesome. Had a wonderful time. But yeah, I missed you. And so first off, let me just say thank you for all you do for the community. And one, just if people don't know, Steph's always awesome, but she's even more awesome in person. And so, like, if you ever get that opportunity, do not miss. I'm so happy to be here with you today.
And, you know, people feel a way about us content creators, but I would say every content creator that I've met in person is way better in person. So if you ever see us, say hello, chop it up with us. But John, yeah, I'm really excited to get this final mock draft in. And, you know, before we get into it, you know, John Lynch did speak with the media today. There's a couple of interesting nuggets that I kind of just want to share here because it might be relevant to this mock. I don't know. But he did mention 49ers have 20 first-round grades in this draft. I believe that's an increase from, you know, what they've had in the past couple years. So that's always a good sign. In this mock, we won't be trading up or back, you know, just to limit the complexity. But I think John Lynch, it sounds like they're interested in trading back maybe, but they understand there might not be a lot of suitors or people who are willing to trade up. So don't expect to see a lot of action unless, of course, there are some surprises. Now, another thing he said in terms of edge rushers, what he looks for, has to set the edge. And John, I don't know about you, but I had one player in mind, one that could maybe be an option for them at 11. But yeah, I'll just stow that one away in case it comes up in our mock draft scenario. But John, are you ready? Let's get into this.
I'm excited. And I did feel like I walked away with a little bit more clarity on what the 49ers kind of lean on it, on what they're looking for. With just in regards to the edge position, right? You got to set the edge. That's huge. And so now the translation gets into, well, does that eliminate some of the smaller edge rushers, even if they have positive run grades and kind of what that looks like? But my favorite thing that he talked about was production or lack thereof. And I think the quote, I'm sure I'm going to mess it up. At some point, the lack of promotion or lack of production doesn't lie. And so I thought that was probably my favorite quote or sentence from the whole presser, where it's like, oh, well, there's one or two guys that kind of he's talking about here, I feel like.
Yeah, I think that also did kind of give a bit of a clue. And it's interesting because, you know, the guy we all think he's hinting at is Shemar Stewart. And Shemar Stewart has actually been mentioned with the 49ers a lot in the last week and a half. So maybe it's Chris Kosterek getting the good word out there that he loves him some Shemar Stewart, but I don't know. It kind of sounded like John Lynch shut that down. But John, let's get into this, all right? It's going to be 7 rounds. We're going to do it on PFF, no trades, like we said. And if you like, John, if there's a player that you think won't make it to that certain pick, should we just decide to ignore them?
We're filtering out the craziness, which happens and really all mock drafts are crazy. The actual draft is crazy. Like, who would have thought DK Metcalf was going to fall to the 50s? But we're going to remove the outliers, trying to give as much as a honest look or perspective as we can possibly replicate in this mad world that is the NFL draft.
Absolutely. So without further ado, let's go ahead and start this thing and see where the chips fall.
Oh, I'm excited. This is going to be fun. And this is the last one for me. So I am like,
I'm already pissed.
This is therapy. Uh-oh.
I'm already pissed by how this mock started. I almost want to start it over because like two tight ends in the top 10, like that's not happening. I'm gonna start over. I know maybe that's bad juju, but that was not. There's always surprises, John, but I feel like that one was just like not.
We're here for a realistic look. Now, the one thing I will say is I do think that teams are very, very high on Colston Loveland, and I think that
I do too.
Is a player that will be going. One of my favorite prop bets I put was, I think it was him under, I think it was 19.5. But 2 in the top 10, that's a little rough. It's a little rough.
I don't usually get stuff that crazy. So this one is, while the picks themselves, like Ted McMillan going at 2 is outrageous. I think like this gives a good sense of who's more likely going in the top 10. So sorry for starting it over, but I think that one was just a bit necessary. So here at pick 11, John, we have Walter Nolan, who's the name that does get, mentioned with the 49ers quite a bit. I had my live with Tony Pauline. He said he's heard Walter Nolan. You now hear a lot of the beat writers mention Walter Nolan as well. Like I said, Shamar Stewart. So he's here if we want him. There's Mike Green. Well, first, let me ask you this. What position are you kind of thinking or hoping that the 49ers go in with this pick 11?
I feel like defensive line has to be it, whether that's defensive tackle or defensive end. I feel like that has to be paramount. Now, this is probably where John Chapman would disagree a little bit with the 49ers. I consider offensive line to be paramount need. Now, we got news today. Trent's in the building. That is huge. Going back to the Joe Staley, you remember the draft, I think it was 2020, where we didn't even know Joe Staley retired till day 2 of the draft. Like, there was a little bit of shadow effect of that where it was just like, I got a little PTSD, like I need some positive. So I'm very thankful that Trent has reported to OTAs and is feeling better. But offensive line, I still believe, is a gigantic need. Now, Shanahan and Chris Forster, they both have said, not that big of a deal. Like, we like what we got. We're fine. They have the bodies. I personally think offensive tackle should be addressed. And, if, in whatever order you want, the big 3 of, Will Campbell, Armand Membu, and I do include Kelvin Banks Jr. I actually am higher on Kelvin Banks Jr. than a lot of people. I think it's just a perfect fit. But So that's I think it's going to be D-line. I would not be mad if it was in the trenches either side, but for prediction purposes, the defensive line should be the pick.
So me and John did decide before we went live, we're going to base this mock on what we want to have happen. And so with this first pick at pick 11, we're going to make that decision together. And then from there on out, we'll each have a round where we make the pick. So for pick 11, we're putting our brains together. I think my favorites, John, are Walter Nolan. And I'll also, did Michael already? Michael's still on the board. I like Michael a lot in this scenario. What do you think about him and him being a potential option at 11 for the 49ers?
I think he's probably the favorite to be the pick. From one, I felt that way leading up into this. Like, he is the definition of the edge setter. He has, 14 and a half sacks through 3 years. Now, 2023 was his best tape. No doubt about that. But I mean, this is a kid that started as a true freshman for Georgia in one of their most difficult spots at 18. They go and win the national championship. 2023, he built on that, and everybody projected Mikael Williams to be a top 5 lock. Then he, sprains his ankle game 1 of 2024, toughed it out, played through it, never was fully healthy. He is now. It's a lot of people are soured on Mikael Williams. He's the number 15 player on my board. I think that 11 is not too much of a reach. And I really think that 49ers fans, a lot of fans have soured on him, and I don't understand why. Literally bigger than Nick Bosa, faster than Nick Bosa. Just the 2024 tape was not his best, but it was not bad by any stretch. So I think personally, everybody needs to get used to Mikael Williams. I think is going to be the pick. That's if I had to predict and put money on it, which I have, Mikael Williams would definitely be the one at 11 that I think would be there. But Walter Nolan, right behind there.
Yeah.
I have him ranked in the 20s. Electric, his highlights. I put this tweet out yesterday where it's like, if you want to like Walter Nolan, watch the highlights. If you want to like Mikael Williams, watch 2023. They both bring the attitude and traits and skill set that the Niners want in defensive line play, tackle and edge, respectively. But I don't think you could go wrong with either one of these two personally.
All right, so what does the chat say? Do you guys we'll get your opinion on this as well, since we both like Walter Nolan, we both like Mikael Williams. What do you guys think? Would you like Walter Nolan here or Mikael Williams? I think both points that John made are strong ones, and it would make either of these players really nice fits for the 49ers and their defense as far as the need goes. Let me ask you this, because I did see his name come across here as well, John. Derek Harmon out of Oregon obviously also fits the 49ers quite a bit. Now, there have been recent reports, I don't know if you've heard this as well, that there's some medical red flags with him. Vague, right? We don't know what those are, which kind of gives me the sense that maybe a team is trying to get him to fall. Not sure, but Ben Albright also, talked about this. So this seems to be real with Derek Harmon. That would give me some pause if the 49ers did consider him at 11.
He's my defensive tackle too, Derek Harmon. I think he's the best pass rusher possibly in this entire draft at the defensive line position, including edges. Like, he has more pressures than Shamar Stewart. Everybody talks about Shamar Stewart pressures. Like, Derek Harmon has way more from the inside, which is just unbelievable. But it has like similar feels as Jackson Powers Johnson or Cooper DeJean last year, where everybody had them ranked top, first round grades, but then first round finished and they're still on the board. Everybody's like, well, what's going on? And then everybody starts saying, oh, well, there's some medical issues. And Brian Broaddus of Dallas Cowboys reporter, he talked about it. Albright talked about it. We don't know what it is, but the fact that something at the combine came up, this is it. If 49ers have stayed away from these players. So Derek Harmon is my defensive. I have him ranked ahead of Walter Nolan. But I don't think that I've completely moved off from that pick, just because since Javon Kinlaw, they have not gone after players early in the draft with situations like this. And the fact that they passed on so many guys that we thought they would be super high on last year, they didn't want this. They don't want misses. They don't want to repeat past mistakes. I love Derek Harmon. I don't think that he's going to be the pick there at 11. I think he's kind of removed from contention there, to be honest with you.
And again, we don't know specifically what the medical flag is, but the 49ers, I'd have to imagine, no. Teams know. And so if he's not the pick, that maybe there's a reason as to why. And so, all right, John, I think, are you good with Walter Nolan? Because we let the chat speak, and I think the majority did say Nolan. So
chat and fans love Walter Nolan. Like,
for good reason.
They love it. And for good reason. You're exactly correct. I have no problem with this. If you told me it's down to Mikael Williams and Walter Nolan, which is kind of what we did, I think the 49ers would go Mikael. I would 100% understand if they go Walter Nolan, and I would be happy with either.
I think so too. I think if Mikael was there, he probably is the pick. I do suspect Mikael probably goes in the top 10, but we never know. We are going to lock in Walter Nolan, though. I think that's the fan consensus. That's the John and Steph consensus here. All right, pick 43. So let's see who just went recently, I guess, in the last 5 picks. But John, this is your pick to make. So walk me through this process. We got our defensive tackle in Walter Nolan. Are you looking for an edge here, or is this where you start looking at a tackle?
Yeah, I think you're open to. I dislike pick 43 probably the most. Like, I love the 3rd round. I love the 4th round. There's guys that fall to the 5th round that make it easy. 2nd round, not really the strength of this draft, if I'm going to be very honest with you. And a lot of these players that are going to be at this level, I don't know. I'm like, man, I kind of prefer the 3rd round guys, but that doesn't mean you can't get a quality player there. And so if somebody falls, that would be wonderful. But, we're looking at the edges, which I think are very, very important. JT Tumalau, Princely Uman-Mielen, Braden Switson, Jared Ivey, who I actually believe is like the Mikael Williams of the second and third round. Like, if you want that giant beast of a player that could set the edge and just, like, again, if you don't like Mikael Williams, probably not going to like Jared Ivey. But he played that same role for Ole Miss, and he fits he's huge. He's bigger than Mikael Williams. So now, do you go back-to-back Ole Miss guys? Me being a Texas guy, I kind of struggle with that a little bit. But I think second round's a little early for Jared Ivey. But every single time I make a pick at this 43, I'm always like, it's a little early. It's a little early. It's a little early. Now, Olufemi Oladejo, Tony Pauline, I want you to talk just a little bit about that conversation because I thought that was enlightening.
Well, Femi is someone that has been linked to the 49ers since pretty early in this offseason, I would say, like even going back to, Senior Bowl and around that time. And Tony Pauline has been on it. In fact, I compared his reporting on Oladejo to his reporting last year on Isaac Guerendo, who he was all over the 49ers interests on that one. And this one may be similar. The only difference with Oladejo, John, I think, is it's not just the 49ers who are super interested in him. There are so many teams that love him that we're now talking about the possibility that he may go in the second round, which is crazy because I don't think that's originally where, he was pegged to go. So do the 49ers want to take him at 43? I think it'll be in the discussion. I think he's pretty solid at setting the edge as well. You could say he's still a little bit raw as a pass rusher, but I just love what this kid is made of. Now, I think he's going to figure it out. His character, I would not be surprised if Oladejo was a gold helmet, and that's no pun intended just because he rocked the gold helmet at UCLA. But I really do think the 49ers probably have the greenest flag on him and would love to add him as part of their team. But again, I don't know if that justifies picking him at 43.
Yeah, I have him and Jared Ivey as third round great edge players. There's JT Tumalau, I'm much higher on. So I would take him over both of the two players we've talked about. But I think that he's in conversation because picking 43 to 75, that's a huge drop. And, we're not doing trades. I would prefer a trade back in the second round if at all possible. But again, John Lynch talked about that too. Everybody wants to trade back. You don't just get to trade back just because you want to trade back. So, now Ariante Ursary, I do think is a perfect 49ers fit. He is that elusive, athletic tackle that could play guard, could play all the spots. He gives you the versatility, helps you get your best five out there, could play right tackle. He could do all those different things. I'm lower on him than most. I don't like waist bend offensive line play. And even whenever I watch him, there's still a lot of kind of freshman rookie mistakes for somebody that has a lot of experience. It's 3-year starter, but the athletic traits, the specimen, all those things, I think he would be in the conversation, but I don't think that I could pull the trigger at 43 on the Minnesota tackle.
Ursary ranked as OT5 on Dane Brugler's The Beast, the draft guide, and the 49ers did have a 30 visit with him as well. In fact, if you look at the 49ers 30 visits and tackles, they're mostly in this range. There's a couple of guys that they could maybe pick in the first round, but I feel like the meat of the tackle visits were really these day two kind of guys, and Ursary definitely one of those guys on that list. But again, John, this is your pick. I mean, you've got some options here. I agree 43 is a weird pick. I almost feel like you want to be a little bit earlier in this second round rather than 43. This feels a little like no man's land. But assuming they stay here, where are you leaning? I
wouldn't mind looking a little bit more through this big board if you don't mind. Right now, I'm kind of leaning JT Tumalau. Omar Norman slot is there, but we already went defensive tackle, and he's got some health issues. I think it's a little early for him. Ellick, the wide receiver, I like him, but I don't want to spend the second round pick on a wide receiver. Let's keep scrolling down. Let's see if for some reasons Darius Alexander, if we went edge in round 1, that would probably be my pick in round 2. And probably my favorite mock drafts that usually take place is when you go edge D tackle. Like I like that volley
Yeah,
better
I
than
do
the
too.
defensive tackle edge.
I do too. It could go either way too. If you get edge in the first round, I think you go D tackle. So it could work either way. That's kind of where I'm thinking the 49ers go. And, me personally, when I've done these mocks, that's what I'm liking as well. Just that 1-2 punch right out the gate, address those needs. So is Darius Alexander, is that where you're leaning?
Not the problem I would be, but we went Walter Nolan. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with going defensive tackle. You have the needs. TJ Sanders actually is my highest ranked defensive tackle, and I see him sitting there at 54.
There's a lot, yeah.
Oh, I freaking love it. This draft it's fun whenever you get to this point. But if we go to what Kyle Shanahan talked about today, I want guys that can set the edge, and I want guys that can threaten what that looks like. JT Tuimoloau, he fits that. Absolutely loves football. Like guys whose personality comes across when you're watching the all 22 silent tape is so fun because this dude loves football. He just loves it. Motor never stops. Size, he's got it. Production, he's got it. I mean, run game, yeah, that dude could set the edge like nobody's business. And so is 43 where he should go? Maybe a little bit of a reach, but the 49ers has shown repeatedly they're going after fits at need positions and guys who love football. He checks every one of those boxes. So me personally, if I was making this pick right now, I would be tempted to go defensive tackle, but with JT Tuimoloau sitting there, I think that would be the pick. All right.
Yeah. See what the chat thinks about that, but it's your pick, John. So we're going to go ahead and lock that one in at pick 43, JT at Ohio State.
They're going to get mad at me. They don't like it.
Well, one thing we found, if anything, is that 49er fans will be mad regardless of who the pick is. Regardless, if most of us like it, there will always be someone who doesn't. Now we're at pick 75. All right, so this is where now that we've addressed defensive tackle and now that we've addressed edge, it really starts to open up, I think, the possibilities of where you can go. So I am not going to filter by position, and I'm just going to see who is there, who's available. I'm going to see who just recently got picked up. So we're already lasted in this mock till 69. I do think the 49ers could start looking at some corners. You see Darian Porter out of Iowa State, who got picked at 68 in this mock. Someone that the 49ers, have been interested in. And I think they will target a corner. Most likely, I think, though, not till day 3. Although they did do some homework on some of these late day 2 guys as well.
Amos, or if Zaire Thomas fall, like I could see those 2 guys being the pick, but outside of that, the corner position, I think they wait as well.
All right, so a couple of intriguing names, John, and some, again, like we're looking at, again, some edge guys that we like. Josiah Stewart, I think that's good value here, right? Then you got CJ West, your DJ Jones like comp, right? As a lot of people have pegged him as. He could be a pick here, but we already addressed those 2 positions, so got to keep looking. Not that they can't, double dip this early, but, let's see what else is here. Chris Paul Jr., I think out of all the 30 visits that they've brought in, John, I try to predict the 3 that they are most likely to draft. And I think Chris Paul would probably be one of those guys, honestly, for the 49ers. I think they want to bring in some competition for D Winters this season, and they want it to be quality competition. You don't want someone else there just to put fire under him. You want someone who has a legitimate shot at getting that spot from him if they're worthy. And I think Chris Paul would definitely be in that mix. And so at pick 75, I think this would make a lot of sense for the 49ers. Now, we talked about offensive linemen. Marcus Imbo out of Purdue would definitely be a nice and intriguing option for the 49ers. He probably figures to be more of a guard at the next level. But I think he'd be a really good one for the 49ers. And so He offers some positional versatility for them that they obviously covet. So I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued by that one. What do you think about Marcus Sembo?
I love him. Yeah, I think center's where he'll probably end up, but the 49ers always start their guys at guard. You got to learn the system, and if you can make that transition, you can make that transition. But I have a high third round grade on him. Saying, and this is the problem every time I get to the third round, Steph. I love 20 players here. I love 20 players here. Like, this is the strength of the draft. And yeah, I just, man, Jacob Parrish, you're talking Ashton Gelotti. I mean, there are just guys on guys on guys that are fits and starters that you can get. And so I know the 49ers haven't been the best in the third round, but this year, man, you're coming off Dominic Pooney, though, in the third round. So maybe one of their best, Fred Warner, Dominic Pooney, those are the best 2 third-round picks they've had in the Shanahan-Lynch tenure. If they can continue that with, there's 2 third-rounders they got on board with 75 and 100. Oh, man, you got to hit those. Got to hit those.
For sure. And I also see RJ Harvey here, which, if we were Kyle Shanahan, would probably be thinking running back. I'm intrigued by RJ Harvey, but we're not Kyle Shanahan, and we don't want to take a the running back class is so deep. You're going to get value, I think, later in the draft. And so I think I'll wait on that, although I am a huge fan of RJ Harvey. All right, I don't want to get too far here. And the next pick is 11, which would be yours, John. And so I think you're going to have some good options there. But I'm leaning towards wanting to go Chris Paul here, just because I do think the 49ers, like I said, not only do you want to address linebacker, but you want to do it with a strong enough prospect that is going to provide some legit competition, I think, at that spot. I'm seeing a lot of CJ West as well. I love CJ West. I think he could be an option for the 49ers. Had there been more reporting on CJ West, or he hasn't been on the sheet all that much, and not that the draft sheet is everything, but I think so they met with him at the Combine. It was a formal meeting, and at the Shrine Bowl. So there's some interest there. It's not to say that he can't be the pick here. But just because we already addressed defensive tackle pretty early, I think we can wait on getting some good value a little bit later. So I am going to go Chris Paul Jr. Linebacker is not as deep as defensive tackle in this class. So
no, it's not. I love it. I love it. And now, you've got 3 starters, right? So we went defensive tackle, Walter Nolan. We went JT Tuimoloau, edge. He fits. He's not as sexy as some of the other edge guys, but, man, fits to a T what John Lynch talked about today's presser. And then you get Chris Paul, who's used to playing behind Walter Nolan. So, you have that, I don't know, chemistry already.
Ole Miss guys, man.
I don't like Ole Miss, and I don't like Ohio State, but that's okay. That's all right.
Good defense there.
Yeah, very
Charles
good.
Grant went at 94. That bums me out. But
Great
you got pick
player.
11. What is there a certain position, since we addressed 3 spots in the defense? That's looking good. Is there a certain position now that you'd kind of shift towards? Is this where you start looking at maybe an offensive lineman?
Yeah, I think there's got to be some available. And again, this pick 100 is always very, very, there's talent across the board. DJ Giddens, great. Anthony Belton. I think he's a perfect fit that, could be tackle, could move inside. His nickname's Escalade. He fits looks like Trent Williams. That's how big he is. Doesn't move as well as Trent, but he does move well. I think that he fits the Niners scheme relatively well, could play tackle easily. I want to scroll through the big board just a little bit and just see where the value is. Savion Williams, again, Kyle Shanahan's going to be asking for him. Harold Fanta Jr., absolutely love. Jamari Caldwell, definitely in play here. I know we got a tackle already. But I'm seeing my favorite player in this draft. My favorite player in this draft, regardless of round, whatever else, the guy that just screams 49ers to me more than any other player, cornerback Jacob Parrish out of Kansas State. That dude is the most demo player since Diamador Lenore. Now, he's faster. He tested better. He's got more experience. I'm not saying he's better than Demo. I don't think very many are better than Demo. But the best tackling defensive back, not just corner, the best tackling defensive back in this draft. He wants to put his stamp on attitude. I think corner is a big position for the Niners because right now You've got two. You got Renardo Green, you got Diamador Lenore. After that, Darrell Luter Jr., Trey Brown, who you just signed, who's been injured almost all of his career. Outside of that, yeah. Corner's the need.
It is. And I think this is about the range where the 49ers will definitely want to start to address it. Jacob Parrish, one of those intriguing names for them that I think makes a ton of sense. I mean, you mentioned it, he's very Demo-like, especially the fact that he has an inside-outside versatility. Where do you kind of see that fit in, John, like with Demo? Because like I guess that's the biggest question I have about whatever corner they do bring in is like, are you going to keep Demo as that slot guy, or, you know, a guy that you draft like Jacob Parrish, who has that versatility and experience already? He's strong at it. Is that someone that you'd move to the inside so that Lenore could be outside? Like, what would your ideal combination be like there?
I think you do the same thing you did with Renardo Green last year, where Renardo Green started in the slot. That's where he started. That's where he had experience, but then he played almost predominantly outside throughout the whole season. Demo has won that role. There's no way you're pulling Diamador Lenore out of the spot he fought for with the coaching staff through multiple years. Finally got it. He's the first slot nickel corner to stop the slot fade, which has been the Achilles heel of Shanahan since he showed up. Like, he's the first guy. And he did it multiple games against division opponents. Like, Demo gets to do whatever the hell Demo wants to do. Jacob Parrish, I think he played the Demo role at Kansas State, where he was outside, and then whenever they went nickel personnel, he jumped inside. He could play outside. 4.35 speed. I know he's not like the tallest and longest corner, but outside is where he would be, and he would be that number 3 corner. So you have your 2 in base personnel 4-3 setting, Renardo Green, Diamador Lenore, and then whenever they transition to 11 personnel, the offense, that's where Jacob Parrish comes in, and he plays outside. But it gives you the versatility, because then Demo can play inside, Renardo can play inside, Parrish can play inside. Like, it fits the T. We're going to get our best 3 corners out there regardless of what happens.
Yeah, I like that. And it really could just depend on who they're matching up with that week and which corner matches up best with, you know, the wide receivers you're going up against and in the slot. We got this question from Lori. Shout out Lori for the super chat. Any chance the two of you can do a post-draft breakdown? Would love that analysis. I mean, John, I'm doing breakdowns, or I will be doing, you know, recaps and reactions on my channel every day of the draft, basically. And I'm assuming you probably will be on your show as well, right?
Yeah, we're doing that draft party in San Francisco, and Diamador Lenore's coming out, which is going to be awesome. So days 1 and day 2, I know, we're just talking Debo, right? Days 1 and day 2, we're going to be downtown San Francisco at Broadway Studios, which is going to be awesome, and we'll be live from there. But day 3, I'll be jumping on and off. But yeah, we got to do something post-draft where we can kind of sit down and, you know, say our thoughts and feelings and kind of go through that, because that's always fun. And I can't wait personally. I'm ready for this stage to be done, to come to a conclusion. Let's put a bow on it. And that's why we're doing the final mock draft. I can't wait to break down game tape of actual 49ers. Right. That's what I'm most excited about.
Yeah, and to just narrow it down to 11, maybe less picks will be great. And we could just dive in deep on those guys. So that'll be nice. But getting back to pick 100, John, Jacob Parrish, are you locking that one in? Or?
Yeah, locking it in. It's a starter. Now we have 4 starters. We got a D tackle, we got a DN, we got a linebacker, we got a corner. We plugged the major needs on the defensive side of the ball. Oh. Now you can kind of have fun with the last. We still got 6 picks left.
Whew, man, we can cook. We can really cook. But I agree. This is where we start to look at really value. And John Marie Caldwell out of Oregon, still up there. He's one that, man, you watch him, you have so much fun watching him. Sometimes watching tape is boring because you're like, you know, what? I don't know. Caldwell, though, every single play, it felt like he was doing something, right? So he's someone that really jumped out at me when I watched, and huge fan of his game. So I'm keeping an eye on him. You know, maybe we start looking at some running backs that are available. You got Devin Neal out of Kansas here. You got, as far as tight ends go, Gunnar Helm out of Texas. Maybe intriguing. I think the 49ers could start looking at safety even. So if we wanted to plug one more hole, in this defense, I'm looking at a ball hawk safety, John, and I think there is no bigger ball hawk in this class at this range than Billy Bowman Jr. out of OU. I think he would be the exact fit for what the 49ers need. There's a lot of redundancy, and there has been a lot of redundancy in the safety room in recent years. You don't want to depend on Jair Brown necessarily after a down year last year. And so bringing in a guy that could be better in coverage, that, like I said, could be more of a ball hawk, rangy. Billy Bowman, I think, is that guy. So I think that's obviously an option. Jonas Sanker, another, safety that could be an option for the 49ers here. What do you think about those two guys?
Yeah, I like them both. I think that the biggest question is, like, what is it that you want? Because Billy Bowman brings the athleticism, the heat-sinking missile, all those special teams. You talked ball skills, that's there. Jonas Sanker, a little bit different. 4.48, both would be the fastest safeties on the 49ers roster if you added them, which speed is a major issue that you do not have in that safety room. But he's the eraser role. So if you're looking for the Tayshaun Gibson, the always hover over the top and erase the big plays, like stop the big plays from being gigantic plays, Jonas Sanker plays that to a T. Billy Bowman's the exact opposite. Billy Bowman is a little more your Hufunga, hair on fire. I'm going 100 miles an hour. I might not even touch the guy. I'm either going to kill him or I'm going to miss him. The missed tackle rate's high, but you love the energy. So it's a pairing. What attitude do you want at safety? Do you want the cautious, always going to keep everything in front of them? That's Jonas Sanker. If you want the freak highlights, blowing people up, ball skills, that's Billy Bowman.
Well, I want the ball skills, and Billy Bowman, 11 career interceptions, 13 passes defended. So that is the part that intrigues me, John. And so I understand maybe there's a bit of, I was talking about the redundancy as far as the style of play. Maybe there's some of that, but there isn't a guy really in the secondary, especially the safety room, that's a ball hawk. They just don't have those same ball skills. So that's really what I would look for, I think, in a safety. I think, like I said, Jonas Sanker also an option. So I'm going to keep an eye on these guys. We already got a corner, so I'll probably not go with Kobe Bryant here, although I do like his game. And I definitely think he could be an option for them later in the draft. David Walker, out of Central Arkansas, if we're going to double dip on an edge rusher, I'd want it to be here, and I'd want it to be a player like David Walker. I think he exactly fits what the 49ers would look for. Again, we already went with an edge, but if we want a little bit more depth, I think David Walker provides that. And you don't have to necessarily depend on him to be the guy, right? So if you're worried about his size, don't be, because if you watch him play, he does not play like his size at all. In fact, I would say his size, he's used it in a way where it helps him out. He's the low man. He almost always wins. So I'm very intrigued by David Walker here as well. So he's on my short list of options. So I'm kind of deciding whether or not I want to double dip on Caldwell, the defensive tackle, or edge with David Walker.
There's room for both. There's room.
There is room for both. The next pick is 113. 138. So, it's a possibility one or both of those guys makes it to that pick. And, we already talked about how deep the defensive line class is. So Peebles you get later as well.
I think Peebles is close, and so this needs to go into how we're building this as well, because Jamari Caldwell is the complement to Walter Nolan. Peebles is Walter Nolan. They're built the same. They have the same skill set. Yeah, lesser version, obviously, first round versus fourth round. But do you want two of the slasher roles, or do you want the anchor, the plugger role with the slasher, which seems to be what, kind of the 49ers have done with Saleh, with D'Amico, is they have the two separate types of builds, and not all the time, but a lot of the times.
That's a great point. And I think with this class being so deep, you can really get one of each, right? At any point in this in this draft. So I'm with you there. And I also think edge, at some point, there is a drop off. And I feel like it's coming up. I feel like David Walker's the best edge that's available and that's going to be available, going forward. So I think I am going to lock in David Walker at pick 113. And I'm going to assume that there's going to be another defensive tackle we can double dip on later if we want to.
Yeah. You're getting guys that fit exactly what you want, that are quality football players. I mean, it's all defensive draft. I'm not even
actually upset. Crazy. I'm surprised.
I'm not
We're in
mad.
the 4th round. We haven't gotten an offensive player yet.
Now I'm looking at several 49ers fits at the top of the board. Gunnar Helm, tight end. I think that he fits exactly, but he's much more of the tight end too. He's not the move tight end. Luke Farrell, you already have that, so I'm going to bypass that, even though I think Shanahan would love Gunnar Helm, which, Texas uses their tight ends. Their offense under Sarkisian is basically, he adopted what Shanahan devised with the Atlanta Falcons when Sarkisian took over when Shanahan came to the Niners, and Sarkisian evolved his entire offensive philosophy around Kyle Shanahan's scheme. And so Texas offensive players, offensive linemen, skill positions, they fit. And Shanahan goes down there and coaches them for a week every offseason. So when you see Texas offensive players, just know Shanahan likes them. One, he played there, but it's what it is. Jadon Blue, this is where he should go. And I would be okay with that if you're using a 4th round comp pick like we are 138, as opposed to the 3rd round comp pick on a running back. Brashard Smith, he fits. Aeneas Peebles, we talked about. He's a little bit of the same flavor as Walter Nolan. We've already got an edge, so we're not going back with Quay Robinson. Let's keep going down. Let's keep scrolling. I want to see more of this big board. Logan Brown. Nice. I do like Logan Brown. Emory Jones is there as well. Let's keep going. And once you get to this part of the draft, you find guys you like. Right. That's what you're trying to do. Emory Jones, Pat Bryant. We haven't gone wide receiver. I like Pat Bryant a lot. He fits that X kind of role. Tough as hell, glider, plays outside wide receiver, which, with Ayuk, how long is he going to be out? And, Demarcus Robinson being suspended. Yeah, you have obviously the starting X, week 1 is going to be Juwan Jennings, but man, there's not much depth behind that. And so Pat Bryant, he figures into this as well. Right now I'm leading Logan Brown, though, if I had to make a choice out of these players. Anybody else standing out to you, Steph?
Yeah, as far as position goes, I definitely am open to offense at this point, wide receiver, offensive line, tight end. I think I'd wait for a little bit. There's some guys that I think I like a little bit later as well. I think Conyers is one they could get a little bit later. So we'll look for value there. Logan Brown is interesting, right? Just because obviously it went well with Dom Pooney and that pick. Could Logan Brown, out of that same offense, get you a similar return? He played tackle at Kansas. Now, do you figure that he'll continue to play tackle at the next level and just be a developmental guy, or is his position at the next level going to be guard ultimately? What do you think?
Yeah, I'd prefer to move him into guard personally. And so that's the thing. Are we drafting a guard or a tackle here? Because if we're drafting a tackle, Chase Lunt, I have a higher grade on. I think that he has a higher ceiling. Logan Brown can play both. And the 49ers, you remember when they drafted Jalen Moore and they're like, oh, he's going to play guard for us. He never played guard for him. He played tackle for him for all 4 years. And now he got signed. So the 49ers are kind of wishy-washy a little bit on their guards versus tackles. Spencer Burford, he's guard. Now he's practicing tackle. So Logan Brown would fit that mold where we're going to put you somewhere and don't know where. Chase Lunt, you're putting at tackle. And so I would prefer Chase Lunt. I have a higher grade on Chase Lunt, offensive tackle out of Connecticut. So if we are going O-line, that's probably the way that I would go, because I think right tackle is where he belongs. Just very, very, very clean player. Did not give up very many sacks ever. 49 starts at right tackle. This is the last year of Colton McKivit's deal. So if based off of the big board that we saw, I'm leaning Chase Lunt probably over anybody else.
Yeah, but this is your pick, John. I almost forgot. So
okay. You can steal it at any
I
point.
almost forgot. No, I picked David Walker, so this one is yours. And if you wanted to go offense, you can go Logan Brown, you can go Chase Lunt, you can go any of these guys, man. It's yours to make.
I think Shanahan would go Jadon Blue. I'm going Chase Lunt because I believe offensive line is paramount. And now you have a tackle that, you just put him at right tackle. He's your swing tackle, but he's your right tackle of the future.
For what it's worth, the discussion we were having earlier in regards to Logan Brown in the Beast, Dane Brugler's draft guide, it does kind of project that he'll be a swing tackle as well. But in any case, you said you had Lunt ranked higher in your rankings, so yeah, let's lock in Chase Lunt there. Let's see who we have. So that was our first offensive pick, round 4.
Don't be shocked if it goes like this, though. That the needs are on the defensive side. You replaced nobody with all that you lost. So this is defensive draft, so it kind of fits.
We still got so many picks to go. All right, so 147. I think this now at this point we're really just thinking it could go anywhere. Like we were saying, it could go wide receiver at this point. We could look at some tight ends that are available. In fact, I love Kanata Mumfield. What do you think about Mumfield? I think we could wait on him, but I just want to get your thoughts really quick on him.
Yeah, whatever. He wasn't one of my favorites, but I did think the whole time, like, okay, this is a quality football player. So, like, once you get to day 3, are you swinging for the fences? Or are you going for kind of like, man, this is somebody that we think can make this team? Because I think that's where he fits. Wasn't one of my favorites, but Pittsburgh wide receivers always hold a special place in my heart. They're always tough as hell, and they always have great hands. He checks both those boxes. I was a little lower on him. I had a 7th round grade on him, so I'm a little bit later. But if you like him, I want to know why, because I'm learning right now.
So I like him, but I like him, like you said, 7th round. I think that's where I'd be considering him. Not here, but I just wanted to get your quick thoughts on him because he was someone I watched recently because I think the 49ers, if they do address wide receiver, will probably be on day 3. That's just, or maybe I'm hoping, but so he was someone that I happened to watch and I liked his game. Honestly, the Pitt quarterback, I don't know who that is. He didn't really do him much favors, but when the ball was thrown in his direction and it was accurate, he got up and got it. I mean, like I had a few clips that I screen recorded as I was watching, and I'll probably put it together at some point, but yeah, not for pick 147. So
I felt like I was watching Ricky Pierce off Florida tape because the quarterback just, like you said, it's like hard to evaluate.
Yeah, it does make it a little bit hard, but I did like his game. He had no problem getting open. He probably should have gotten the ball more, quite honestly. But yeah, not looking at him here. This feels like a no man's land just a little bit, John. I'm not finding anyone that is jumping out at me that I can't get later. Yep. So that's kind of where.
What are your thoughts on John Lynch saying they have 200 draftable grades, which is way more than they usually have?
That feels like a lot. It feels like a lot. You think about there's a little over 300 plus prospects in the class. So, I mean, that's a good chunk of players to have draftable grades on, which, it probably makes me feel pretty good. If you had to guess, the majority of the positions of those, I would think a lot of those are probably on the defensive side of the ball, which is good for the 49ers, right? John Lynch also talked about the depth of this class. He's not so much worried about what's been said about this class and it not being a good class. He sees the depth in it. So while it's not great at the top, of this draft, I think he sees that depth. So that's intriguing. I haven't watched much of Jack Kaiser, but I'm intrigued. I know we already got a linebacker, but what are your thoughts on him?
Yeah, he's fun just because he's big. He's got a lot of playing time on 6'2", 231. So on the bigger side of the Robert Saleh kind of linebackers that they go after, but he's played so much, 1,800 plus career snaps. Speed's good, arm length's incredible. He's got a lot of very, very positive things to his game. Older prospect, effort, IQ. That's he'd be a locker room guy. But again, like, what do the Niners do? Because they usually get one freak athlete, undersized speed demon linebacker, and then they get a bigger kind of like thumper, whatever guy. Think about like D Winters, Tatum Bethune, right? And so this is a little bit of a complimentary role. We got Chris Paul Jr. in the third round. This would be a core special teamer that could fight into that linebacker 3 spot, that has a lot of IQ. He's older. He's already 24 years old, but 49ers don't mind that, especially the last 2 drafts. They will go after older prospects.
Yeah, I definitely want to lean offense on this one personally, so I'm going to filter here. Pat Bryant, like you said, I think is an intriguing name for the 49ers at this point. Brashard Smith, I think, is another fit, like you said. I want to see how long I can go without going running back and just see where value takes us. So later in the draft.
There's a lot.
So I think I'll go Pat Bryant here, pick 147. I think I feel good about that.
Ooh, I love me some Pat Bryant, man. He is tough, TUFF tough. I freaking love watching wide receivers that are mean. And he'll fit the program. Like Pat Bryant, like I love this pick there. Like Pat Bryant is probably going to play for the Rams. Like that's just my, like in the back of my head, like they love that guy. So anyway, I love that pick. I think that's a great pick. Let's scroll down a little bit. Let's see the big board and see what's on there. This is starting to get in the area where, man, Craig Woodson, safety, California, absolutely love. I know a lot of people have talked about him. I love that dude. I really, really want him on my team. Luke Condra, the guard. Sorry, you clicked on Craig Woodson. This dude is just so clean. Craig Woodson, just clean player. I didn't even know he was draftable. I'm watching Noah Williams tape and Teddy Buchanan's tape, and this safety is just popping off the tape the whole time. And I'm just like, when is this kid coming available? I look him up. Oh, he's draft eligible. And I'm just like, good Lord, why is nobody talking about Craig Woodson? Yeah. And then Daniel Jeremiah on his conference call, he brought up Craig Woodson and how much he loved him. And I was like, dude, I have a 3rd round grade on this kid. It's so clean, athletic, size, smarts, experience. I'm just like, why is nobody talking about Craig Woodson? Then Brad, he brought him up, and I'm like, okay, all right, I'm not insane.
Those Cal guys, man.
Yeah, those Cal guys, they'll go after him. But I love Craig Woodson. I just think that the experience, the traits, the attitude, and just clean player that I think fits what the Niners love. And to be honest with you, like, I wouldn't even be shocked if Robert Saleh said, hey, let's turn this dude into a linebacker similar to what you did with Marcel Harris, similar to what you did with DFF. He's 6 foot 210, but he's jacked. Like, he could add a little bit of weight, but that 6 foot 220 Jamie Sherwood role that, you turn him into an all-pro. He was a safety. Like, he could be that role. So I love Craig Woodson. I don't know where the Niners are on him. They haven't really met with him, but man.
He was at the local pro day, was he not? I'm pretty sure he was.
That is true. Yes, he was. And Kruger said that he looked pretty good. So yeah, I love Craig Woodson, man. He's one of my rush crest players. I want this guy on my team. So this probably a little early for him. I have a 3rd round grade on him though. And I kept like, man, should I bump it down? I watched another game and I was like, dude, I should bump him up. So I like him. Luke Condra. I think I'm going to go Luke Condra. Okay. Guard, Cincinnati.
Good value, I think.
I think he's a damn good player, and I think he kind of plug and play at the left guard spot. And I think it's a bigger need than safety. Even though I'm higher on Craig Woodson, we need offensive linemen, and I would be very, very happy if we added Luke Condra to 6'5", 320. He's big. Played a lot. He's played right guard, so now you got 2 right guards, but I think he'd play on the left side as well.
All right, yeah. Let's lock in Luke Condra out of Cincinnati. Let's get a refresher on what we have here. So we've went the first, how many picks here? 5 picks were defense, and now the last 3 have been offense. We got 3 picks left. And again, this is really where we start just kind of filling in whatever else we feel we need. I think, like you said, safety is probably where we could start looking. I also wouldn't mind if they didn't even draft a safety, to be quite honest with you. Who was it? Matt Mayoko, who said that he thinks they could trade for a veteran, not specifically safety, but just any position, right? After the draft or maybe even during the draft. So if there's a position where they're feeling like, this isn't really going to do it for us in the draft, don't be surprised if they make a trade for a veteran after the draft. And also, they're now in a position where when teams start cutting guys, early camp, we drafted this player, we don't need this guy anymore. 49ers is now in a position to take some chances on some of those guys as well. So don't be surprised there. This is a good spot for Jalen Conyers, I think, John, and I do really like him, especially this late. I think it provides a ton of great value. If you look at the 3 tight ends the 49ers brought in for 30 visits, 2 that really stand out in terms of just the skill set is with Harold Fano Jr. and as well as Jalen Conyers. Those strike me as like dynamic pass catching guys. They lined up everywhere for their offenses. And so maybe they're looking for that versatility, a guy that could, add a little more threat in the pass game, more so than, what they got with Luke Farrell, for example, right? Who's not going to be that, but he's going to add the blocking aspect. So you got that. Jackson Haas, who I also love, but he's redundant with what they brought in with Farrell. So I do think they'll probably go with, if they get tight end, it's going to be a pass catching tight end, and Jalen Conyers is so intriguing basketball background. And it's not just, I don't say that just to say that. I say it because you watch him play and you see it. It jumps off.
He'll cross people over in the open field.
Does.
It reminded me of Jaden Reed, Reed. You remember he used to he would do this move like he was crossing over.
He Euro-stepping dudes on the field with his route running. I had him on my show for an interview. You guys should check that out if you haven't. I talked about that with him, and his one-on-one reps at the Shrine Bowl were impressive. You definitely see that he's crossing dudes over. So we did talk about his basketball background a bit. But I'm going to go Jalen Conyers. I think that feels good. I don't even care to look at some of the other positions here because I know we wanted to address tight end, and I think this is a good spot to do it. So 249, I'm going to kick it on back to you, John.
Now, you said you wanted to wait on running backs. You have the last pick. So I'm going to leave running backs for you unless you want me to take one now, because I want you to go through that product. You were the one that wanted to wait, and I like that. I really hope the 49ers wait on running back. So I'm going to leave the last position for you. Now, Fadil Diggs, edge. Let's look at defensive tackle, because we have not gotten to defensive tackles, and I think that is a must in this draft class. Man, there's some good ones right there. Let me see who's the highest on my list. Probably going to be Cam Horsley.
You don't want Desmond Watson, the big man.
I don't. He's huge. But I like Cam Horsley. And really, I love Boston College trench players on offense and defense always. 6'3", 310. Huge wingspan, crazy long arms. He could play that plugger role. And I just, again, somebody that, probably not going to be involved in pass rush plays. He's a run stuffer. That's where he gets his MO. That's where he lives. It just makes it very easy for the guys behind him. So Cam Horsley, I think I have a 6th round grade on. No, I've got a 7th on him. But I think that quality player fits what the Niners need. We have this slasher with Walter Nolan. Now you go get the plugger, run stopper role, give you some depth there. Yeah, I'm going with my man Cam Horsley there. I think that's a good pick.
All right, let's lock it in. Cam Horsley, 249. So this is the pick. We waited all this time for a running back. Kyle Shanahan would never. But at pick 252, look at the value. I mean, I love Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. He had a hell of a Shrine Bowl. Like, I think he would be tremendous value for the 49ers this late. And this just goes to show, I know this is just a mock draft, but I think it helps illustrate that the 49ers could wait this long if they wanted to and still get a pretty good back, just because this class is so deep. You got Phil Maffa out of Clemson as well that's available here too. But of this list, and I feel like it's not showing me everyone because this is It's weird how there's only these guys left.
They capped it at 350, but man, there's going to be some undrafted free agent running backs that
Some good ones for sure.
everybody's going to fall in love with. There's nothing that 49ers fans like more than the undrafted free agent running back in camp. I've been guilty of this too. Jordan Mason was like my favorite player ever. And so like, I was like, oh, I love this guy. And sure enough, he hit. But yeah, who the next one's going to be?
As far as any questions about him not playing this past season, there were eligibility issues with him. And so that's why, but like I said, Shrine Bowl, he played tremendously. So
not eligibility with grades, the way that they handled his red shirt, he played too many snaps several years before that was mismanaged by a coaching staff. That was the issue. So like, it's not so much like a character red flag issue like grades or ineligibility or whatever else. It was and if I'm wrong, Steph, you correct me because this is your department and I'm sorry for treading into your territory, but like I don't count that as a negative against him. That's not his fault. Yeah, you wish you had that tape, but it's not like it's a red flag issue. Is that correct or am I wrong on this?
No, you're 100% right on that. And the other former teammate, I believe, of his was Andrew Henry, who had a similar situation happen with him, and he didn't play either. So, but I'm going to go Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. Someone else mentioned Corey Kiner. I think he's also an option and would probably be a good fit for the 49ers too. A lot of connections there. Didn't see him here again because they capped it, but someone to keep an eye on. Now, let's see how we grade it out here. John, so Walter Nolan, they gave us a B, JT, B, Chris Paul, C. I love that.
Looks like my grad school transcript right here. Steph, come on,
lot of B's and C's. We got an A- though, thanks to you, John, with Cam Horsley in the 7th round. Some good value there. So overall draft grade B-. What do you guys think in the chat? How did we do? Did we fix the 49ers with this draft? Let us know.
I would be
in
so
the
happy.
Comments.
I would be so happy with this. I would be so happy.
I think we covered all the needs.
There's not one pick where I'm like, I don't like it. Yeah, maybe we went early on JT. Maybe who else? Maybe did we go early on? I don't think anybody else. The rest were maybe Walter Nolan a little early, but Fitz needs. Sign me up. I would. I'm cool with this, man. I'm happy that this is my last. Whew.
Yeah, final 49ers mock draft. We're gonna get the real thing on Thursday. John, thank you so much for joining me for this one. I had a blast, and yes, as mentioned before, we gotta do this again after the draft to talk about the picks that they did make. And what we like about those guys. So we'll definitely stay in contact, of course. But thanks, John. I appreciate it.
This is awesome.
Yeah, let's go. Appreciate the chat. Keeping it popping. Make sure you like this video, guys. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Not just mine, but John's as well. Not just John's, but mine's as well. Appreciate all of you. Make sure you guys are tuned in with the draft tracker on draft night. All right. bit.ly/49ers draft tracker 2025. See everyone that the 49ers have met with, including those 30 visits. But for now, folks, have a good rest of your Tuesday. Talk to y'all later. Peace.